Hi, welcome to Promo Insiders, a podcast that covers the issues that matter most to the promotional products industry. I'm Chris Rubo for ASI, and today I'll be chatting with Frank Carpenito. Frank just earned promotion from president of top 40 supplier Gemline to president and CEO. It's one of the most notable promo executive moves of the young year. With Frank leading the day-to-day operations at one of Promo's biggest suppliers, we thought it would be interesting to hear his insights on the future of Gemline and the industry, opportunities and challenges for Promo, and what our industry can learn from the consumer products market. We'll get into all that today. Frank, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Happy to be here.
Awesome. I should add too one more little aside before we jump into the questions. Jonathan Isaacson, who longtime Gemline leader, who was previously CEO, is still very much involved with Gemline. Of course, he's taken on the role of executive chair. So just if there was any questions about that, if people weren't aware of this move yet, I just wanted to clarify that to start. And with that, Frank, we'll jump into the questions. So what are some of your big goals for Gemline in 2023, and how do you see the company going about achieving them?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things that we're really focused on this year. First and foremost for us, it's really about repeating the success we've had the past 3 years. And, we sort of define that with continued commitment to our people, our customers, our products, technology, and the environment. And everything we've done in the last 3 years sort of centers around those things. So one big goal for us is to continue that success by leveraging those pillars. A second area that we spent a lot of time talking about internally and externally is expanding what for us has been a highly successful, exceptional customer experience initiative that we launched a few years ago, Chris.
Okay.
And for us, what that's all about is, we're told by our customers that we're servicing them well, but we know we can always do better. And what we've established for a goal there is to continue to raise the bar for service excellence in our company, and that's both serving our internal customers as well as our external customers. A third area, and this is going to be no surprise because I suspect it's on the list for every supplier, is to accelerate our technology integrations across the entire customer base, regardless of customer size. And what that's going to require for us is to continue to disproportionately invest in technology. And we spend a large portion of our CapEx every year against technology, and we spend a large portion of our operating expenses against technology. We believe it's a differentiator and a goal that we'll continue to have on our list. The last two, probably pretty obvious. Continue to lead for us hard goods suppliers in the area of corporate social responsibility, and that for us it's both about efforts as well as impact. So what are we doing to move the needle, as well as what have we done that moved the needle? So that's big for us in 23 again. And lastly, of course, we want to grow at a level that exceeds the industry growth. And we think one way for us to do that is to continue to elevate strategic and transparent alignment with our distributor partners, and leverage the 65-year reliability and trust that we've had as a company to advance at a level greater than where the industry moves.
Got it. Well, man, there's a lot going on there. Okay, to start the year, some big goals, but all ones I think that are achievable. Just a couple quick follows on that, because you've mentioned some interesting things. Technology has been brought up as such it's obviously the cost of technology is going. What you need to do to spend on technology to compete seems to be going up. Do you think that that's influencing the competitive landscape significantly in the industry, or how do you see it influencing the landscape in the industry?
Yeah, and it's a great question. In fact, our CTO, Dave Gallant, just did a presentation to our board in December that he and I worked on. And, one of the things we talked about is distributors have a number of different options that they can pursue on the technology side. They can join some of the various platforms that are out there. They can obviously invest themselves. They can join franchise organizations. Suppliers, it's a little bit different. For suppliers, you either have to invest in technology to keep up, stay ahead, or get ahead, or you need to sell your business or you run the risk of falling into a chasm and getting lost.
Okay.
Because, you know, the industry and the market is moving fast with technology. Our
Hmm.
distributor partners are looking for us to integrate more aggressively.
Hmm.
So I think it becomes a really heavy lift
Hmm.
for a lot of smaller and mid-sized suppliers
Hmm.
because of the, to your point, because of the cost of continuing that move that needle forward.
That's interesting. So do you think that technology factor will drive more consolidation on the supplier side, more M&A?
Yeah, I really do, because I think, like I said, if you're a smaller mid-sized supplier, whether it's technology, whether it's, you know, compliance standards overseas, the costs just continue to increase, you know, and now people are dealing with the cost of money being higher.
Yeah.
So I think some of that is going to just drive more consolidation, and, you know, technology is at the forefront of that, because to your point, whether you're buying hardware or you're bringing on a consultant to help you,
Hmm.
it's quite expensive.
Got it. Really, really interesting stuff. So, we might have hit on some of this already, but longer term, how do you see Gemline's position in promo kind of evolving over the next, 5 years or so?
Sure. Well, I think the first one's pretty obvious. It's been one of our trademarks for a number of years. It's, you know, aggressive expansion into additional product categories and segments. That'll continue for us. Um, Being recognized as the only company to have its entire line be PVC free,
Hmm.
we think will be something in the future that will be a big part of Gemline. We made that commitment about a year and a half ago to be there by 2025. We're well on our way. It's a significant lift in terms of resources and cost
Oh
to
yeah.
get there, but we believe in it, and we believe it's something that'll position us quite differently in the future. Leading with technology, you know, we talked technology a few minutes ago, but leading with
Hmm.
technology and really focusing on eliminating the complexity and redundancy that exists in the system today for both distributors and suppliers.
Hmm.
We think we can make a big difference there. And then I would finally say, you know, at a time where distributors are consolidating suppliers,
Hmm.
we expect to and always want to make sure we're in the mix
Hmm.
on the back end of that.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Interesting points. And you've mentioned corporate responsibility and initiatives like sustainability as being kind of core to Gemline. And there's been some interesting stuff I think that Gemline has done from. In fact, I think it was October last year. The solar array at your headquarters went operational. It's a big deal. There's the FSC certification, I think,
Yes.
on certain products. So there's a lot of action. And then I think most recently there was you partnered, and of course the name's going to escape me, right, with Out of the Ocean. There we go, the bag brand, Out of the Ocean. So a lot happening on that front, both on the back end for Gemline and on who you're choosing to partner with as well, and the products you're bringing to market.
Yeah, it's a great observations. You know, we have always been a company. It's been our DNA that Jonathan, you know, put in here many years ago, where CSR was always important to the company. We didn't used to talk about it as actively with our customers and with our employees as we do today. And frankly, you know, 2, 3 years ago, we stepped on the gas pedal
Hmm.
with the number of things that we wanted to do, whether it was within our community, with our employees, with our suppliers, or, you know, things like the solar installation. And we've always been aggressive on the product front around CSR, but for us, it's sort of a way of life and part of our DNA, and it's one that we just continue to enhance in terms of focus.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be building year over year. So interesting stuff there. So I'm gonna pull the focus off Gemline here for just a little for a second, go a little broader, and kind of talk about your background a little bit. As I understand it, you spent several decades, couple 3 decades in the consumer products market. You had some very high level and visible roles there, and I'm wondering, given all that experience that you have in that market, what can our industry learn from the consumer products industry that could make us more successful?
Well, first off, Chris, full disclosure, the company is way more exciting than my background. So,
Okay.
but with that, I'll still try to answer your question.
Sure.
So, you know, I think one of the things, and I've had this conversation with a number of people over the last year because I often get asked that question since
Mhm.
I came from a sort of different industry segment, albeit similar. You know, I think the biggest thing that I think I saw in consumer products is, and we need to do here, is suppliers and distributors must move from transactional to strategic partnerships to truly advance the value proposition that both of us bring to the table. And, it's really easy for all of us that grew up in and around consumer products. It's really easy to get caught up in transactional dialogue. And I think it's something that as an industry, the more we do to talk about strategy and align with our partners and vice versa with strategy, we can really move the needle on both the size and the value of the industry in terms of our customer base. I think a second piece that, really played out in my years, particularly with bigger companies that I was with, and it's something that I'd like to see more of in our industry is, decision-making moving much more towards an analytics-based decision-making process, a little less so in instinct and perception. There's always going to be a balance. We're human beings. There's always going to be a balance. But I think we've got a demographic that's sitting in the buyer's chair at our end customers that ultimately is starting to look at metrics more, use metrics more. Everything on e-commerce is about metrics. We just need to take our decision making a little bit more there. And I saw that in the traditional consumer industry. And I'd probably say the last two things. One may be slightly controversial, but one of the things is we need to be aware of greenwashing. We're trying to continue to bring up the perception and value of our industry and what we mean to the overall marketplace. And we just need to make sure that as everybody races to do more with CSR and ESG, that we're able to identify any greenwashing that could creep into our industry. And I think the last learning, and I learned this from, dealing with people like Walmart and Target and Kohl's, Walgreens and others over the years, you do not need hundreds of suppliers to successfully and profitably grow a distributorship. And I say this one could be a little bit controversial, but I think the number of suppliers that our distributors have to work with or are working with today is adding tremendous complexity and inefficiency to our ability to transact business with one another. So it's something that I saw flush out and make for a better industry in traditional consumer products. And I suspect it's something we can learn a bit from in our industry.
It's very interesting, and it's a controversial, not, it's a candid observation, and it's certainly a conversation that I've heard in the industry that that type of consolidation or streamlining of who you partner with can create efficiencies if you're working together in the right way,
Sure.
Specifically through the through some of the technology interactions that you can have when you're really interlocked with each other. So interesting stuff on the CSR front too. Greenwashing. At ASI, we've been covering a lot of the industry's evolution, if you will, on sustainability, and we have a site, Promo for the Planet, and greenwashing is a topic that's now coming up often because. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody in the industry, of course, but so many companies now recognize what Gemline has for a while, that should be an important part of your business, and that buyers are looking for that. But we got to make sure it's not just something in a press release or a marketing blog, that it has to actually be real action behind that, and that it can be substantiated. So that's a great point, I think.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of that. I was involved when USDA began to certify organic foods, and you had all natural foods and organic foods and conventional foods. And what happened is at a point in time, everybody was making claims that they were all natural, and all natural wasn't regulated or certified. And that led to sort of greenwashing and lawsuits. And, it started a spiral in the industry for about 2 or 3 years. So it's something as an industry we want to be extra sensitive to.
Got it. Good stuff. So next question here. What are some of the big trends you see playing out? We're of course talking, back in our industry here, playing out for promo in 2023. And if there's any particular product categories you want to point to, or just, things that you might not have mentioned yet, on an operational standpoint, really anything's fair game.
Yeah, and I'm going to sound a little redundant on a couple of the responses, Chris, but I think it's important. So you might be surprised the order in which I share these. So number one, I really think is about technology acceleration, and whether it's direct integrations with suppliers and distributors, expansion of promo standards, more distributors adding e-commerce into their mix. I do think that 2023 we will see that trend accelerate, and it'll create more separation and differentiation in the marketplace. So it's a redundant theme you're obviously hearing from me, and I think we've heard a lot on the show circuit in the past few weeks. I think a second thing is, heightened interest in responsible sourcing and suppliers. And I don't mean just in eco-friendly products, because that's often a perception. People say, well, we've got eco-friendly, but it's really about, what are the sustainability practices? What are the business practices? What are the employee practices? What are the DEI commitments companies have? That I think if you look at the demographic of the buyers, that demographic wants to know more about who they're doing business with and the products and brands that go well beyond what the recyclable content is in the product itself. So I think we'll see more of that. We're starting to have distributors ask for more detailed information that supports that story. And the last couple of things I would say, and this one I spent a lot of time on the road in the last 9 months, and I heard repeatedly, which is a focus on service excellence and reliability, regardless of market and supply chain conditions. And what I mean by that is distributors have had to listen to suppliers for 2 years, talk about our challenges with supply chain, our challenges with staffing, our challenges with A, B, and C. And their customers don't want to hear the excuses and the challenges. They want to know they can get serviced in a manner which they expect. So one of the things we heard loud and clear, 12, 13 months ago, everybody was worried about inventory. In the past 6 to 9 months, everybody's worried about service level and reliability. So I think in 2023, we'll continue to see our distributors raise the bar for what their expectations are around service reliability. And I think that's important for the industry. It's important for all of us as suppliers to make sure we deliver against it. And the final trend, I think consolidation. We're seeing it in distributors. We're seeing it in suppliers. There's been some M&A announced over the last 2 weeks already on both sides. And we've heard consistently the message of distributors reducing the number of suppliers that they'll do business with in 23. So I think those are some of the big trends. I'm sure there's a bunch more, but those are a bunch of the ones we're looking at.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with all of them, as being stuff people are certainly talking about and expecting and keeping an eye on. And the service level discussion, I really pinpoint on that. That seems to be, as you said, inventory was the bigger issue late 2021 and into early 2022. As the year went on, the focus became service levels. So put you on the spot a little bit. Sorry, do you think suppliers are going to be able to rise to meet that demand? Like overall, are we going to see better service levels in 2023?
I think yes, because I don't even think it's an option.
Okay.
If you're a distributor, you need to be able to ensure you're going to get a service level north of 95%, or it's hard to conduct your business. So I think the answer is yes. I think we all will continue to focus and rise. And I think those who can't get their service levels to a satisfactory level will get penalized by our distributors, because I think they've had enough challenges over the last couple of years, and they're just not going to accept it any longer.
All right, interesting stuff. So we talked about some big trends. What about some big challenges? Or I guess some of the trends kind of touch on challenges, but are there other big challenges you kind of have in mind for the industry, and ways that maybe the industry can overcome those?
Well, I think I'm going to state the obvious, and my first one is no matter what article you read, what person you listen to, who you talk to at the water cooler, we all know we're in some form of a recession or inflationary condition right now. And the question is whether it's slight to moderate or something north of moderate. So I think for 23, it's what's the extent and what's the degree of any kind of recession or inflationary pressures that we feel as an industry and as a society. That'll be a huge challenge for us this year. I hope it's not a huge challenge, but I think it's one that we're all anticipating, or create a little bit of uncertainty, at least for a while. I think, I mentioned this, we talked about supply chain, but navigating the inconsistencies in supply chain and then the impact to inventory management as a result of it. So, for the past 12 months, the supply chain really has been quite predictable. Things really settled down in 2022. Most suppliers were able to navigate it, predict it, have the inventory, have products show up on time. But, now we're dealing with some slowdowns in China for, the products that we source in China still, because of factory lockdowns for, a week or 2 weeks because of COVID. So I think we'll continue to see some of those challenges. Some of the big shipping companies are starting to add stops along their routes getting to the US so that they ensure that their containers are at full capacity. So what might have been a trip that took, 4 weeks, it might take 6 weeks now because they've gone from 3 stops to 6 stops. So we really need to watch that carefully in the industry because we don't want to revert back to the challenges of 2021 in terms of supply chain inconsistency. So I think those are a couple of the bigger challenges that we'll see this year.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I've done a couple articles recently about the situation in China and how the COVID surge there coming right before Lunar New Year is definitely creating some of it's a little bit of those echoes of 2021 again. So hopefully it doesn't get anywhere near that level, but yes, it certainly seems that that's something and not just our industry. We should be clear. That's worldwide because I think global manufacturing output from China is about 30% of the world's output, so it's significant. So we talked about challenges though. What are some big opportunities you see out there for the industry? Positive things.
Yeah, and we think there's a bunch of them. The good news is I think we're still in an industry that's growing and will continue to thrive and is evolving, which are positive. But I think that the technology and CSR races are big opportunities for suppliers in particular, but for distributors as well. If we continue to develop, leverage, and invest in technology and CSR, I think we can drive increased momentum and opportunity across our market space. A second thing in product and brand innovation and pushing the boundaries. I remember when I started here, a couple of people said to me, "Well, all we sell in this channel is black and navy blue with white ink, and it's got to be something you can put a book in." Or maybe something you drink out of. And, going through COVID, I think we all learned there were categories and segments that suddenly became really popular in our industry that have stayed that way. So I think really pushing the boundaries, whether it's colors, whether it's styles, whether it's products or brands, as to what the end customer that our distributors are servicing will consider and would like, will allow us to expand the depth in which we bring value, as an industry in total. And then I think, the final big opportunity is, the web direct segment or the e-commerce platforms that distributors are putting in place. That represents a big opportunity for growth because we know there's a buyer out there, and there's a lot of them that does not want to see us or anybody, come visit them in their office or meet them at a local coffee shop or have to have an interaction on the phone. They want to conduct their business using technology. So it's really important, I think, and opportunistic as an industry, that we advance at a pace similar to what the B2C community has over the years to make sure that regardless of the buyer and how they want to buy and what they want to buy, that we make it easy and simple to conduct business in our channel. So I think those are all big opportunities for us, 23, 24, and beyond in some cases.
Yeah, really interesting stuff, and I think we're going to see a lot of that come to pass, over these next, as you say, this year and then years going forward. So, one final question for you here: do you think that we'll break an industry record in sales in 2023, or for that matter, do you think we did it in 2022?
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad you gave me a somewhat easy question to end with, Chris. Well, let me start with 22. I don't think we will have broken a record in 22, but I don't consider myself a gambler or a good forecaster from that standpoint. So I'll wait till you guys release the final numbers, but I'm going to guess not in 22. As far as 23, if you'll allow me to qualify my answer, that would be great. I would say no, we won't break a record in 23 if we experience something north of moderate inflation or recessionary pressure. So if we're in that kind of moderate to high pressure for at least half the year, I think we'll be challenged to break a record in 23. On the optimistic side, I think if, what we've seen, I think in recent months and probably what we're seeing right now is, a little bit of light, maybe not even moderate pressure, that if we stay in that course for under 6 months, I think all the positive momentum that we have in our industry coming through the last couple of years will continue, and that we will get to a record by the end of this year. Obviously, my vote is for the latter, that I'd like to see a year where we can all excel and our industry can grow and set a new record.
Well, my vote is certainly for the latter too. I agree with you. I think a lot does depend on the macroeconomic environment as to how much we will grow. But I do think even in a recession that people are going to continue to invest in our industry because there's just so many opportunities for growth and I think more people buying and using merch. I always bring this up, but like even just the influencers you see online, social media, and the way that younger demographics are even turning to merch to monetize things that they do. Just all these little new niche opportunities, that are informing the larger opportunities that have been there for a while and opportunities to expand, with traditional customers. I think all long term, our industry is a great is a great place to be.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. We think there's a really bright upside for the industry, and we're excited to hopefully be along for that ride.
All right, I suspect you will be. So, Frank Carpenito, the president CEO of Gemline, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate how thorough and candid you were with all your answers. I feel like I learned some stuff today. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Chris. I enjoyed it and I appreciate your time.